Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome to a brand new Game Maker tutorial mini-series, and this is what I'm so excited about because we're doing some multiplayer. We're going to start off with some LAN stuff because that's always a blast. I've wanted to do this series for so long, and finally now we get the chance. Everyone can go and thank Sander Vanderbon, who pointed out this um, Game Maker extension that makes multiplayer easier, and it's awesome. It's so great. And in my whole year of doing tutorials, I've never been able to figure out how to do a nice multiplayer one, but thanks to this plugin, now we can do it. So thank you to him. So before we start here, you have to go to the marketplace. This is where you download the plugin, as you can see here. So it's GMNet Engine. So with this, you get two things. You get the multiplayer engine part, and you get something called GMNet Punch. And what Punch basically does is it allows you to make online servers without port forwarding and stuff. It's cool. I'm not going to go into too many stuff right now with that because we're just going to focus on the LAN multiplayer. But eventually we'll get into that. But it's awesome. So if you download that and you open up your game file, your empty game file, let's import it into the game. So if you've never imported anything with Marketplace, we go up to Marketplace Beta, and you're going to click on My Library, and this is going to open up here, and you should see it here. If it's in your library, if you've purchased it or you've hit free or whatever, it'll pop up here, and we're going to hit Add to Project. And what it's going to do is it's going to come out with this menu here. Now it's got a bunch of demo stuff, and what we're just going to do today is we're going to add go into scripts. We're going to add HTME. We're going to add UDP HP. We're going to go to objects, and we're going to add HTME and rooms. We don't need rooms. Okay, so all we've done is we've imported all the scripts, which basically make the engine work, and we've imported the main HTML object. The rest is demo stuff, so that's what I'm going to be going through in the tutorial, how to make those. But that being said, if you don't want to do that, you just want to skip ahead, you can import everything here. So I'm going to hit OK, and as you can see, it's going to add them all. It's quite the process. It's a lot of scripts. Look at them all. Perfect. So I'm just going to go all the way to the top here, and I'm just going to minimize scripts because we're not actually going to use, we don't need to touch scripts right now. Today we're going to be making a menu that we can connect to. So what's first? Well, first thing to do is let's make a room. Now I'm going to hit create room, and it's going to pop up my other window, of course. And I'm going to make this room 640 by 480 because that's just kind of the default size I like to use. And I'm going to call this HTML underscore ROM underscore menu. ROM is just room for short. By the way, all this stuff is documented in, they have this all documented in the manual for the plugin. So if you ever need to go back and reference it, you don't want to do in video format, they got awesome documentation on how to do everything I'm going to be going through. So we got HTML ROM menu. And let's make this, let's give it a nice color. Let's make it, give this kind of blue. No, not that blue. Maybe a green. Sure. Yeah, we'll do that one for now. No, I like the green. I like this green. Yep. Okay. So yeah. So like I said, we're going to be doing the menu right now. So first thing we have to do, let's add obj HTML into the room. Now this is a persistent object. So it is going to be in every room after that as long as you add the first one. All this object does is this runs some of the scripts that needs to be run to make sure that the connecting and all that stuff works fine. So most of this is just one line stuff, just telling it to run the scripts. This is optional. I'm going to take, I'll leave it on for now, but all this does is it has a HUD for you, a debug one with a bunch of stats and all that. So eventually you'll want to get rid of that. But let's jump right in. Let's no dilly-dally. So right click in your objects, let's create an object. and we're going to name this object obj. Actually, they like HTML underscore obj. That's how it's organized. Some of the scripts reference object names specifically. So if we do HTML obj menu, then when you get into other things like UD, PHP and stuff, at least then we know that this is an HTML object. HTML obj menu. Perfect. And we're going to use this so that the players can connect to different, can connect to the lobby and stuff. So let's add an event. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a draw event. We're going to go to control, and we're going to drag in some code, and we're going to type in a draw text. Now, if you recall draw text, it's a simple function. It's draw underscore text. We're going to say X, Y, and then we're going to tell the players that they can hit one key to join or one key to create a new one. So what should we make this? Press J to join a server, or what key should we do? Should we do C, or C to create one? Okay, so press J to join a server, C to create one. Perfect. So all that's going to do is that's going to display it so that when they go on the menu, they know what to do. Now we're going to add an event. We're going to add a step event. We're going to drag in some code, and we're going to say if keyboard underscore check underscore pressed ord J. So if they have pressed the J key, you need that ord there, it's important. If they've pressed the J key, actually let's do the C key first. If they press the C key, then we have to start the server. So start server. So how do we do that? Well, first we're going to do a few things here. We want the when you create a server, of course, you're gonna have to pick an IP or a port or something so the server knows what it's running on, and that way people can connect to it. So it's actually quite simple. We're gonna say var port. We're gonna create a new variable called port is equal to real get string on which port, or pick a port. We'll do pick a port. I was doing a lot of the demo, and the demo says some weird stuff. Pick a port. I like the sound of that. No, actually, no, not pick a port, because that would indicate we have options. Just put port or whatever you want. You can put whatever, it doesn't matter. And then we need a default one. So I'm just gonna put 6510 because that's the default in all the demos. So let me explain this here. So we've made a variable here, and what it's going to do is it's going to pop up with a box that the players can type into, and they're going to type their port, and then it's going to get stored in port. So by default, it's just going to say 6501. You can set that to whatever. Once we get into some other stuff, it might, you're going to have to pick more specific ports, but 6510 will be perfect. So that's going to find the port. So we can put asks for port. Perfect. So now all we have to do is start the server. So let's put set up the server. And this is actually a very basic if statement. If we say if HTML underscore server start port 32. So if we've successfully started the server, room underscore go to, and then this will want to be whatever your first room is. So we haven't made one yet, so I'm going to call it room underscore level 1. So if we've started it, go to that room. Else, we're going to show an error message. So we're going to say show message failed to start server or something. It can be whatever you want. All we have to know is that if it doesn't work, the person creating the server has to know. And game underscore end. We're going to close the game. So what we have here is, okay, we're going to start the server, and if we've started successfully, well, let's go play the game. But if we haven't, then let's let the player know that it didn't work. So that's perfect. That's what we need here for creating a server. Now what we need to do is now we have to make it so people can join the server. Now it's actually almost the same here. So you say if keyboard underscore check underscore pressed ord b, we have to grab the IP and the port for the people who are trying to connect. That way the computers and the servers can see where these people are trying to connect from and all that stuff. So we're going to say var IP, IP is equal to get underscore string, and then we have to pick which server. We need a port for the server. It's like if you ever played Minecraft and you're connecting to a server, you have to put in an IP address. So we have to tell the server which specific server we're trying to connect to. So say IP of server or something, and make the default. We're gonna make the default this right now, because that's the default once again in the demo stuff. But of course that will change because as we move on to the more advanced stuff, the IPs and the ports will change. So just be ready for that. And I'm going to say var port is equal to real get string once again. So these are all dialog boxes that are popping up. Port. And we're going to make it 6510 once again. What are we missing here? A bracket. Perfect. So we have var IP and var port. So basically the player just has to select which IP, which is just basically, let's just call it the ID of the server they're trying to connect to. And if they tape those in and the server exists, then they're going to go into the room. But of course we have to test that first. So we're going to say if HTTP underscore client start IP port, then room underscore go to room underscore level 1, which once again we have not made that yet. Sorry, not that one. What am I doing? We have to make a middle room. We want to make a connecting room. So we're going to call this HTTP underscore ROM underscore connecting. So this is a middle room that people trying to connect are going to jump into before they jump into the game. And then we're also going to do another error message. We're going to say else show message failed to start client. So it didn't start what we needed to start for that. But of course, let's go through and let's make some of the stuff we're missing here. So we need HTTP, we need the connecting room. So let's name this room. We got this menu, perfect. And let's duplicate it and take out this. And we're gonna name this HTTP underscore room underscore connecting. And we're going to make an object for that really quick in a second. Let's go back into the menu room and let's just place the menu object anywhere in the room really. I'm going to put mine right there. And so let's go back and we're going to create a new object for the connecting room, and we're going to call this HTTP underscore obj wait for client, no sprite, and we're going to add a draw event. And all this code has to say is it just has to indicate to the player that we are trying to connect. So we're just going to say XY connecting dot dot dot. So that way when the player jumps into the room, he doesn't think anything's bad has happened. He's just waiting to connect. And we're going to add a step event, and this is basically just going to connect the player. So we're going to say if HTTP underscore client is connected. So if we have joined the server correctly, then room underscore go to, what do you know, room underscore level 1, which we once again have not made yet. But if HTTP underscore client connection failed, whoops, my brackets are off today. Then we're going to show the error message once again and say fail to connect to server. We need a lot of communication with the player here, because multiplayer, you really need to, people need to know what's going on. And we're going to restart the game as well, so that they have the option to then try and rejoin or create a new server. So it's actually pretty straightforward. We're going to hit check, and we're going to hit check. And I'm just debating here. I think, you know what, let's just make this one longer one. I was going to divide this into two smaller ones, but let's just do it one long one. I'm going to right click on rooms. I'm going to create a room, and I'm going to call this room underscore level 1. Let's make this 640 by 480. And we're going to have to go and we're going to have to make some objects for this room. But first, let's change the background. I'm going to make it this bluey color. I'm going to hit check, and I'm going to hit check. Now let's go up and let's create some sprites here, because I'm going to make a little platformer game. Show you guys a bit about movement and stuff like that. So let's name this sprite. I'm going to call this SBR underscore ground. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to make it 32 by 32. I'm just going to keep it simple. And I'm just going to make this guy black. Let's just make him nice and simple black color. And I'm going to create a new sprite, and I'm going to call this SBR underscore player. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to create a new sprite, and I'm going to make him the blue I like. If you've watched any of my other tutorials, I tend to use this blue quite a lot. And I'm going to check, and I'm going to hit check. So we got SBR ground, and we have SBR player. So that's pretty straightforward. So first things first, let's make it an object. So we're going to right click on objects. We're going to create an object, and let's call this obj underscore ground. Now the code I'm going to be doing for the platformer isn't the top code. I don't recommend you use it. I recommend you go watch some other tutorials on how to make, you know, better collisions and stuff. But this is just a simple one. First one I did back in like the first tutorials I ever did, I used this code, and it's all right, but it's really, these days, you need much better. And we're just gonna make this guy solid, a solid object for collisions. And I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to call this obj underscore player, and I'm going to set a sprite to the player. And there's a few things we need to do. We're going to add an event. We're going to add a create event. We're going to go to control, and we're going to drag in some code. And there's a few variables we're going to need to make. We're going to need to make 3 variables that check for key input, kind of check for key input. You'll see in a second. But I'm going to say self dot pressed jump is equal to false. Self dot pressed right is equal to false. Self dot pressed left is equal to false. Self dot name is equal to, I'm just going to put Steve for now. And I'm going to do speed is equal to 5. So what do we have here? These are variables that we're going to be using later on, but they're just checking to see if our player has pressed these certain keys. That's why we have the self and stuff. Because when you're working with multiplayer in many instances of the same kind of player object, this self and stuff is all needed. So we're just storing these because we're going to use them a bit later when we get into movement. And I say a bit later, and I actually mean right now. So let's hit check, and let's go to add event, and let's add a step event, and let's drag in some code. And now everything's going to make a bit of sense. So first thing we're going to say is we're going to say self dot press jump is equal to keyboard underscore check underscore pressed. Oops. VK. Let's make it VK up for now. We can do WASD and stuff later. I'm going to do self dot pressed left is equal to keyboard underscore check underscore no press, because they want to be able to hold down when they move. We're going to say VK left, of course. Self dot pressed underscore right is equal to keyboard underscore check VK right. Okay, so now what we have here is now we have the keyboard inputs. So now it's slightly shorter when we go into code. It makes it slightly easier and it works better for the multiplayer. So now we can do the typical platformer stuff. We're going to go down here and we're going to say, let's do a comment. We're going to say gravity, and I'm going to say if place underscore free x, y plus 1. So if there's a free position below us, if there's no solid object below us, then gravity equals 0.5. Else gravity is equal to 0, v speed is equal to 0. So what this is going to do here is this is going to check to see if there's ground below us, and if there isn't, that means we're in the air and we have to start moving downwards. So next we're going to do some movement, and we're going to say if self.pressed jump and place underscore meeting, whoops, x, y plus 1 obj ground. Okay, so if we have pressed up and we're on the ground, so we can't jump when we're in the air unless you're doing double jump, but we can't jump when we're in the air. So we want to check to see if we're on the ground. So if we press jump and we're on the ground, v speed minus equals 10, so that's going to move us up, and that's all we need to do for that right now. Perfect. So that's going to move us up, and then gravity is going to move us back down. And I'm going to say if self.pressed right. So once again, this is just saying if we're holding down the right arrow key. Let's make this left first, just because that's the order we have it up top in. Then x minus equals speed. So we set speed to 5, so that's just x minus equals 5. And that's all we need for that. And I'm just going to, no, I'm not. I'm going to go down, I'm going to say if self.pressed underscore right. So if we're holding down right, x plus equals speed. So this is going to move us left, and this is going to move us right. It's actually, not too complicated. So now let's do some collisions. I'm going to hit check, and I'm going to add an event, and we're going to add a collision with the ground. And I'm just going to drag in some code. And if I recall, if we do move underscore contact solid, and we put direction and 10, we should be fine. That should be a simple way for us to do it. Different than what I had planned. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a little name tag above the players so that when you have multiple players, you can kind of see their names when they get unique names. So I'm just going to say draw underscore text x, y minus 20 self.name, which we set to Steve. So it's just going to draw Steve above our, actually let's change the color. Draw underscore set colored. Let's make it white. So this is just going to draw the name above our player. So keeping it simple. So let's go into our room level 1 here. And we're going to do our first test of our game. Let me just add this. Perfect. Let's add this guy. I'm going to change the background. Let's make it, it's nicer. So I'm going to hit play. Let's see what errors we have. Okay, so press J to join or C to create. Now we're going to create one. And you see this is the dialog box I was talking about. I'm going to hit OK. And, oh, I made a mistake. I forgot a piece of code. But now we can move around. We can jump and we can move around. I forgot, in the draw event, we just need to add some code onto the top and say draw underscore self. And all this is going to do is this is going to draw the sprite and our name. Because the way the draw event works is it basically overrides whatever's in this sprite here. So if we do draw self, that basically means draw the sprite and whatever we're doing. So I'm going to hit play again. And I'm going to hit C. And we hit OK, and now we're in, and now we can hop around and stuff. Perfect. So if you hit F12, it's gonna pop up with some stats and stuff. This is what I was talking about that you might need, you might not need. So if I hit F3, it has players, so it says one player. F2, F1, we can go through all of them here. Really, yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, okay, so our platformer works, and we have our player object. So now what we need to do is we need to make sure that we can connect, that other people can connect, and that everything works fine. But before that, we're just going to make an object that is going to keep checking to make sure that that the server's still going. Because if the server's not going, we want to make sure that the players know that, and it's not, yeah, it's going to update like that. So we're going to create an object, and I'm just going to call this HTML_obj net control. And all this is going to do is it's going to have a step event, and we're going to go to control and drag in some code, and we're just going to say if not HTML underscore is started. So if we're not running, show underscore message something broke, restarting game dot dot dot. Perfect. And then I'm going to say game underscore restart. So if something goes wrong and the server's no longer running, we're just going to restart the game. So we can just put that in here. Let's make it persistent. No, actually, no, we'll leave that. That's fine. So what's next? Well, okay. So like I said, we have to make sure that other players can go in the game and we can see those other players. So that means we have to sync up everyone's games together. And how do we do that? Well, this extension has very easy way for us to do these things. So I'm going to go into the create event of the player, go into the create event, and I'm actually going to drag in another code block just to separate the two. And I'm going to name this one. If you do 3 slashes, you can name your code. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to call this update server or something, just so we know that this is the stuff that is used for the multiplayer. And there's a few things we have to do here. First thing, we're going to say mp_sync. Whoops. So that is going to tell it. This is going to tell the engine to sync the player. So that means keep your eye on this guy, see what he's doing. But we have to tell the engine exactly what to look for. So we're going to say mp_add position. And then it's going to take 2 things. We're going to say pos, which is position, and then 5 times room speed. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is just telling the server to keep its eye on the X and Y positions. So it's going to follow the movement. So it's going to allow people to see the movement. And then this 5 times room speed basically means it's just going to check every couple seconds. So yeah, so it's going to be tracking the X and Y, and it's going to sync it onto the server so that other players can see that. And it's nice and simple. So literally that updates the position. But we're not done yet. We have to go down one more line. We're going to say mp_set type pos, of course, position post, and we're going to say mp_type.smart. Now, there's a few different sync types. So what we have here is this is the sync type, and there's 3 different ones in the engine. There's fast, there's important, and there's smart. You're usually going to use smart. Sometimes you'll use fast, and occasionally you'll use important. But for this, we're just going to use smart. It's basically, it's what it does is it's not going to check everything to update. It's not going to constantly update everything. It's only going to update the things that have changed. So, if the player isn't moving, it's not going to constantly update it. It's going to wait until the player does move, and then it's going to change. So nice and simple. So cool. So what we're also going to do is we're going to add a tolerance, and a tolerance just basically It avoids some flicker, it avoids some graphics problems and some confusion. If we say MP underscore tolerance and we say pos again 20, the 20 stands for pixels, and basically if we move less than 20 pixels, then it's not going to show it, because then it might look a bit odd. So if we budge slightly, it's not going to update that. And it's just some little stuff. But we're not done yet. This is the biggest part of everything. We have the most stuff to do right now so that it updates everything. Because there's a few things we need to do. So we're gonna come down here, and what we need to do is we need to tell the multiplayer engine, we need to tell it to add certain game maker stuff. So I'm gonna do a comment. I'm gonna say add game maker stuff, and that stuff includes the physics like gravity and v-speed and stuff, and drawing, so like animation, image speed, visibility, stuff like that. So we're going to say mp underscore add built in basic, whoops, forgot the I here, built in basic drawing 15 times room speed. And then I'm going to say mp underscore set type basic drawing mp underscore type dot smart. Whoops, I forgot the quotation mark. Whoops. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're importing all the drawing stuff. So we're telling it that it's got to look for the drawing stuff and it's got to update it. So if the name changes, it's got to change the name, and it's going to update it and add it to the server so that other players can see these changes happening. But we also want to do that with the physics, so we're going to go down 2 lines. And we're going to say mp underscore add built in basic once again. And we're going to say basic physics. And I'm also going to say 15 times room speed. And what do you think we're going to do down here? Can you guess? mp underscore set type, whoops, type basic physics. And we're going to set it to mp type smart. What do you know? So that's pretty simple. There's a few things left to do. We need to update the name. So we're going to say mp underscore add player name at name buffer underscore string, and then 60 times room speed. I'll explain this in a second here. And then we're going to say mp underscore set type, which you guys are pro at now, player name mp underscore type dot smart. Whoops, smart. Okay, so what's going on here? So this is going to look for the name. So this is just setting the name, and this is going to look for the name, and then this is the buffer type. So that buffering is used a lot. Is used a lot in multiplayer and stuff. My brain stopped working there. And buffer string basically just says that the name is a string, that it's a word. And then this, of course, is the same as here. It's just how often it's going to check for it and stuff. And then you know this because we've done this a few times. It's just going to set the type to smart, which means it's only going to check if it's been changed. Now we're just going to add the controls. So we're going to come down here, and if you recall, we already did this kind of. We're going to say mp underscore add controls pressed underscore jump pressed underscore left and pressed underscore right, buffer underscore bool, and 1. So controls, we're taking all the controls which we have in the other, which we have in here, so these controls, and the buffer type is bool, so these are all boolean, so it's true or false. We're either pressing or we're not pressing. There's no middle ground. And we're just gonna check it every once in a while. Every single frame is what I mean. Like, so 24 frames a second, we're gonna check it 24 times. A lot like the step event. So now we're not quite done yet. There's a lot that goes into synchronizing and updating it. So we got more work to do. This is just going to be longer and longer. Maybe this will be a full 1 hour tutorial. Who knows? This is great. So I'm going to hit check, and I'm going to add an event, and I'm going to add a begin step, and I'm going to drag in some code, and I'm going to say mp underscore map underscore sync in, and I'm going to say name self dot name. My brain stopped working again. I don't we're gonna do this a bunch more times with everything else as well. So we're gonna come down here and we're gonna set this to, I've just pressed underscore jump, and then we're gonna set this to self dot pressed underscore jump. And if you can guess correctly, we're going to do this a bunch more times for everything else. So we're going to go here, we're going to say pressed underscore left, self dot pressed underscore left. We're going to say pressed underscore right, self dot pressed underscore right. And we don't actually need that one. I put an extra one. Cool. So sync in. So this is just setting the variables to. It's just bringing them together. We're doing it in the begin step, just so it gets run before everything else in the step event. So now we also need to add a end step, and we're doing basically the same thing. Well, kinda. We're gonna say self.name is equal to mp underscore map underscore sync out, and we're going to do name self.name dot name, and we're going to do this a few times. We're going to say self dot pressed underscore jump is equal to mp underscore map underscore sync out pressed underscore jump, and then we're going to say, what do you know, self dot pressed underscore jump. And we're going to do this 2 more times. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Let's make this go a little bit faster. Right and left, and we can change this to right, and this to left, and this to right, and this to, what do you know, can you guess, left. Whew. Okay. But we're almost done here, actually. We have one last thing we need to do here. One tiny last thing. We have to hit check, and we have to go into the step event. And you see all this code? It worked for what we were doing before, but now that we're synchronizing it and we want other players in the game, we have to move it. So I'm going to highlight all this, and I'm going to hit Control X, and that's just going to take it away and move it. And I'm going to go into the begin step event, and before all this sync in stuff, we're going to move up and we're going to paste this code, but we want to wrap it in an if statement. So if we highlight this and we move it over, that allows us to put in an if statement, and we can say if htme underscore is local, then this is that. It's going to check to see if this is our player, and then it's going to apply that stuff. So it's not going to apply it if it's other people's players. It's only going to apply it when it's our player that we're controlling. Whew. Okay, that was a lot. Do you want me to go through and explain it again? I'll explain it quick here. It's going to check is local if the player is locally created. If it's us, it's going to use all these variables, and then we're synchronizing all of them. We're syncing them into the game, and then we're going to sync them out of the game. And it's going to constantly do that as we update it. All this stuff, we're updating the position here, and we're telling GameMaker, look for the position, and if the position changes, then show people that it's changed. Show the other players moving. And here we've got we're importing the basic drawing and the basic physics, so that way it's also going to check for people falling and gravity and people's names changing and stuff like that. And it's, yeah, so name changing and stuff like that. And all we're doing here is we're just telling GameMaker what to look for and what to check. But this MP_type smart is telling GameMaker to only check it if something has changed. So we're gonna hit check. We're gonna hit check, and now what you want to do is you want to hit. Well, if you're on Steam version, you want to open a second version of this. You're gonna save it, and you want to open up a second version. So I'm gonna hit new IDE, and that's gonna open up a second GameMaker window. And so what we want to do now is we want to make it so we can also so we can have you can see my second screen here. I can close out all this stuff. My second screen is in the corner, so I'm going to open multiplayer tutorial here. Let me move. I don't know where to move this. It's on both monitors. There we go. I've hidden it a bit. So I've got this guy in the back here, and I've got this guy on the front, and I'm going to hit play on this guy, and I'm just going to close that out, and I'm going to hit play on this guy. So now I'm running two versions of GameMaker. So I got this one here, and I have this one here. So I got two versions of GameMaker. So I'm going to hit C on this one, because this one's going to create the server, and I'm going to hit J on this one. Whoops. Why is that not working? Running around, you're moving. J. That's odd. Oh, you know what? I bet you we didn't, yeah, I put B for some reason. We need J. Okay. Resave. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I saved the one that I didn't change yet, J. Okay, now we can run two versions once again here. And we got one, and we got two. It was hidden. I didn't see it. It's over here. Okay, so I'm gonna hit C on this one. He's gonna create a new server, and I'm gonna hit J on this one, and we're going to join that server. So it's gonna connect us. Oh, we're goofs. Or I'm a goof at least. We gotta go into HQ. We gotta go into the connecting room, and let's add the wait for client, of course. And okay, so now we can add. Let's run our two instances now that we've done it right. Hit play and hit play. Whew. And we're here. And we're here. And I'm gonna put C to join this one. And I'm gonna hit J to join this one. And now we can see each other. Wow. So of course we're moving around. Hello, I see you, you see me, our names are there. And it works great. Now, if you're doing a top-down game, let me show you this here. Whoops. So if that shows that works. So if I go into the player here, and I get rid of this, we don't need jumping for top-down, nor do we need gravity. If you're doing a top-down game, you have to remember that if we take all this, we're going to come down here, and we have to add all of these individually. So what we did here with press left and press right, we have to do with up and down. So you'd have to go here. We have to change this to up and copy this, and then change this to down and hit check, and then go into the begin step and change this to up, and we're going to copy this and we're going to change this to down, and I'm going to keep going through this, show you guys how to do this, because might as well have best of both worlds here. Down, down, nice, and step once again. Whoops, we go up, and then we go, whoops, that's not what I meant to copy and paste. Now this has to be changed to up, which I forgot to do. Up, this has to become down, and this has to become down. Okay, so now we've added all this extra stuff here. We don't need it anywhere else. We don't need this. Everything's looking fine. Controls, this has to become up, and then we also need to add pressed underscore down. And I'm gonna hit check. Everything's looking fine there. Everything's looking fine here. Up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. Perfect. Same here. Up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. Okay. Now let's just go into our level 1 here. So maybe if you're making, you want to make like a LAN MMO, which completely is the opposite of what an MMO is. But you know, maybe if you want to make an RPG game with a bunch of people playing it. So this guy here, and I'm gonna run it on the other one as well. And we're gonna hit C to create a server, and we can move top down here. Oh, we did make a mistake really quick here. I have pressed for this stuff. Whoops. Hold on. Where was I? Create, nope, not here. In the begin step, that's what I'm looking for. We take this pressed out because we want to be able to hold stuff down. And I'm gonna hit play. And got this guy, and I'm gonna hit play again. And I got this guy. So if I hit C on this guy, I'm gonna hit OK, and we can move around. And if I hit J on this guy, just hit OK and let's join the server, and I can move around here as well. So now we can move around. So maybe you're making a cool little RPG game. Now your friends can play together if they're, you know, in a LAN network, and that's pretty cool. This has been a very long tutorial, and I've made it all the way here. I want to thank you very, very much. But we're getting somewhere, and this is awesome. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will be doing more stuff with this later. We're going to be doing a chat and maybe online and stuff like that. But for now, this is actually the first tutorial of my return, and I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again. I'm happy to be back, and I've got exciting stuff planned for the future. So I'll talk to you guys all later. Happy deving.